College football preview video. Today we're taking a look at the Week 6 matchup. Penn State hosting Purdue in a Big Ten clash. We'll break it down for you in just a second. Joe Duffy continues to join me live. Joe Duffy, 32-15 in the NFL this year. Great work, Joe. Let's get into another video here. Penn State hosting Purdue. And what a difference a week makes for both these teams. You look at Penn State Friday night, absolutely slapped every bettor, it seemed like, on earth that had Maryland. And, Joe, shame on people that bet on Maryland just because there was a blackout down in College Park. Penn State was unbelievable. I think really turned some heads a little bit. 398 yards for Sean Clifford through the air. He was 26 for 31. KJ Hamler had a big game receiving. Big plays from Nick Bowers, Journey Brown. I mean, this whole team was on fire and completely shut out Maryland. Josh Jackson looked lost. The run game got nothing going. There was only one receiver, Joe, that had more than 15 yards receiving. A disgusting performance from the Terrapins. But Penn State headed back home, 27.5-point favorites in this one against Purdue team that really had a tough week. I actually bet against them last week. I took Minnesota, and, Joe, I felt real proud. You know why I felt proud? Because I had so many people reach out to me and say, what are you doing taking Minnesota? Sindelar's playing. I said, don't worry about Sindelar. This ain't about it. The truth of the matter is when Sindelar was reported in, the line went in Minnesota's favor. It was the right side. Minnesota is a good football team, Joe. I want to make that clear right now. Tanner Morgan can throw the ball around. They got a good running group, a good defense. Purdue is I'm going to come out and say they're a bad football team, in my opinion. Sindelar likely to not play. That means Jake Plummer will be the starter. Jake Plummer, I will admit, actually looked pretty good at certain points in that game last week. At one point, he did play for Purdue. He looked okay in certain spots. But look, at the end of the day, this is also a team that could be without Rondell Moore, one of the most talented players in the country. I'm really interested in hearing what your thoughts are, Joe, here, because to me, does this fit kind of that Rutgers-Michigan feel? I don't think. Does it fit kind of a situation of, is Penn State maybe a little overvalued? Because they seem like the talk of the town in college football. What do you like here, Joe? Penn State, Purdue.
Yeah, well, Jeff, just like a couple weeks ago, I called DeAndre Swift. It's actually Jack Plummer is the quarterback. Not to be confused with Jake Plummer.
That's right, Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake. But anyway, going with teams off a dominant win. The Momentum system is having a good year this year. 579, 410, and 27, including 10-5 this season. That, of course, would favor Penn State. James Franklin, if you've got the under or if you're betting against him, he's the biggest SOB in the world. But if you've got the over or you're laying the points, you love him. I don't know if since Steve Spurrier, I've seen a coach who seems to love to run up the score more than Franklin does. He's got no compunction whatsoever, almost like, some alumnus say, Coach, we'll be even happier this week if you win by at least 28 points or whatever. He just loves to run up the score. Going against a Purdue team that averages 32.5 points per game allowed. They also allow 8.1 passing yards per attempt to teams normally getting just 7.2. Meanwhile, Penn State gets 9.8 passing yards per attempt to teams normally allowing 7.6. So Penn State's got a great passing attack. Purdue can't stop it. Also, fading road dogs of 19 or more off of a home loss, either as a favorite or as a small underdog. And as you said, Purdue's the line switched there when it was announced that Sindelar would play, but still applies the 219, 146, and 8. You would fade them. That would favor Penn State. And as you said, look, Sindelar is going to be out, 978 yards passing, 9-3 touchdown to interception ratio, as opposed to Jack the Snake Plummer, 426 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. This is a big drop-off here. He completes only 51.4% of his passes. He's got 15 carries, but only has 25 yards. So this is one of those where even if Purdue is within 10 in the third quarter, Franklin loves to put his foot on the gas pedal. Don't turn this off if it looks like Purdue's going to cover, because Penn State just seems to love to run up the score, and this game has a blowout written all over it.
Yeah, I'm really concerned if I'm a Purdue fan in this game. You look at really just kind of the unluckiness of this
Yeah.
team this year. I mean, it seems like Sindelar is going to battle injuries all year. Rondell Moore, the injury he got was really just such a random injury. Also, keep in mind their best defensive lineman is out. Their best linebacker, Marcus Bailey, he's out. Two of their best running backs, they're out. So this is a team that's just had some hard luck. Now you got to go in and play a team that really looks physically imposing, Joe. I thought they just looked unstoppable. And you know who he reminds me of, James Franklin, who, by the way, I can't stand him. He reminds me a little bit of Chip Kelly when he was at Oregon. Chip Kelly would run scores up too.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just running it up. Yeah, this looks like a good spot to back a Purdue team that really just looks lost. Let me ask you though, Joe. I watched Jack Plummer. I thought he looked pretty good last week in the second half. Minnesota, pretty good defense. I've sworn off overs. I want to put that out there. I've just had a lot of bad luck with them this year. I'm one game above 500 in college football this year, and a lot of my losses have come from the standpoint of betting overs. But, Joe, I'm really surprised by this total. I thought for sure we'd see a total in the 60s. You have a total here at 55.5. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't think Jack Plummer is completely useless. I really don't.
Well, he is going to have to do a lot better than completing 51% of his passes. But clearly, Purdue, I'm sure they'll come out initially and try to run the ball. But once Penn State gets a little bit of a lead, they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. So, it does, though, statistically, it does look like there is a fairly big drop-off. But look, I trust your opinion when it comes to the eye test. And if you say that Plummer is a lot better quarterback than his stats say, again, I very much respect your opinion as far as evaluating talent. But
keep in mind, Joe, and I think this is really where, for me, the only way I can look from a side perspective is Penn State. I am going to be interested in the total just because I think Penn State could put up, 49, 51 themselves. This was Jeff Brom earlier today. According to sources, they tell me early indications on Rondell Moore is that his injury isn't too serious. It's a hamstring and not a knee. Brom said Saturday Elijah Sindelar's doesn't look good. So we'll see if Moore's back. I'll tell you right now, if Moore plays, he's a matchup problem. He just is against really any team. I don't know if he will. All the injuries that Purdue has, it's hard to really feel they could do anything. And with my issues with over-unders, I'll probably just allow Joe to have one on this one. I'm going to avoid it. But I think Penn State is physically imposing. They're really good. Joe Duffy leaning with Penn State here, getting a pretty good line, 27.5. It's under that 4 touches. What do you think, Joe, score-wise? 48-10, something like that?
Yeah, I think it could be that. I don't necessarily have as much confidence in Purdue's offense that you have, but, they could get a late score. I think maybe 43-7, something like that.
Joe, listen. I don't need a lot from them.
Yeah.
Just give me 10 points. Give me 10, 14, 17, something like that. I think Penn State's offense will do the rest. Joe Duffy, great stuff. I'm going to actually plug Joe Duffy for him. I know he could do it, but I'm going to do it for him. Joe Duffy is doing very well in the NFL this year. What is it, Joe? 32-15. That's great work through that 4 games. Great work. Great job. Give a plug for Offshore Insiders. Tell us where they can find you.
And that does go back to preseason, so a little bit more than just the 4 games this year. But yes, and we got NBA right around the corner, and I will tell you a lot of my basic theories overlap sports, but my anti-splits angle, we can explain a little bit more at offshoreinsiders.com. That really is at its absolute best in the NBA. So that's what, like two plus weeks away. And I already got some football for this weekend, college and pro, offshoreinsiders.com.
Thanks, Joe. Good stuff. We'll talk to you next week. Joe Duffy going with Penn State minus 27.5. Likes another game, Oregon, Cal. Check that out as well. Joe, thanks as always. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jeff.